All right, so let's do the second part of section 12.5. And the second part of 12.5 is over dividing rational expressions. So we start these the exact same way we've started all of the sections in this chapter, and let's just look at a fraction example. Remember that with a fraction, and remember that I've been saying all week, you cannot simplify if you do not have multiplication. So that's the first thing that we have to do is get multiplication back into this problem. So remember that dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So the first fraction is being divided by a fraction, which is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Once we have multiplication, then we can start our factoring. Even though you don't have to show it to me this way, you do have to at least think it. Is that prime factorization, break it down into all of its multiplications, because you can only simplify if you have multiplication. So we end up with 2 times 7 and 20. That's 4 times 5. So 2 times 2 times 5. And then we can start simplifying so that 2 over 2 becomes a 1. And that's all that we can simplify in this problem. So that the answer is 49 over 40 as a final answer. Now, how do we apply that in practice to our algebra problems? In question number 1, you need to do exactly the same thing. So you take that first fraction, 7w over 4, and it's being divided by a fraction. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiply by its reciprocal. So multiply by the reciprocal. And once we have multiplication, now we can do simplify. So that, again, you don't have to write out all of that multiplication, but since it's our first problem, I will. So we have 7w over 2 times 2 times 2 times 7 times w, that's a 7, over, we already did 20, 2 times 2 times 5, and it's w squared, so w times w. And then we can start our simplifying. So a 2 over 2 becomes a 1, a w over a w becomes a 1. Oh, there's another w. W over W becomes a 1. And I think I have them all. So now I can multiply across the top. Remember, if you crossed things out, they're now a 1. Whatever was behind that cross out is gone. It became 1. So we have 7 times W times 1 times 7 times 1 times 1. So we end up with 49W over 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. That's still just 40 as our final answer. Now let's work through one that has an expression next. So with our expressions, we need to do the exact same first step. It's a fraction divided by a fraction. We can't have that. We have to change it to the fraction times the reciprocal. Once we have multiplication, then we can start doing that factor step. So that in the numerator, x squared, we can think of as x times x. You don't have to write it, you can just think it. But some of us are getting more comfortable if we write it. In the denominator, it's a difference of perfect squares. So we have to factor it. It's going to become x plus 2 times x minus 2. We have multiplication. That's a binomial, so it's x plus 2 in parentheses, and the denominator is an x. Now we can do our simplifying, so that x over x becomes a 1, x plus 2 over x plus 2 becomes a 1, and my answer is simply x over x minus 2, and I'm finished. All right, let's start number 3. Actually, no, you try number 3 on your own because those are difference of perfect squares, and I think you're pretty confident in that at this point. So you try number 3, and actually, I think I would like to do one more with you because I want this to be a relatively short video. Yeah, let's do number 4 together. Let's do number 4 together, and then you can come back and check your work. So in number 4, it's a fraction divided by a fraction. So my first step is to change to that fraction times the reciprocal. Now that I've got a fraction times a fraction, it's multiplication, I can do my factoring and my simplifying. So a pair of numbers that multiply to -2 and add to +1, because I have that leading 1. So x plus 2 times x minus 1 over the pair of numbers that multiply to 6 but add to 5, x plus 3 times x plus 2 times, on the other side, pair of numbers that multiply to 12 but add to 7, 12, 7, not 6 and 2, 3 and 4. X plus 3 times x plus 4, denominator. Pair of numbers that multiply to a -3 but add to 2. So my 3 should be positive and my 1 should be negative. 3 is positive. X minus 1 is negative. And now, because all of this is multiplication, right? All of it's multiplication, now I can start with my simplifying. So x plus 2 over x plus 2 becomes 1. X minus 1 times x minus 1 becomes 1. X plus 3 times x plus 3 becomes a 1. X plus 4 has nothing to simplify with, so then we can stop. And my answer is quite simply x plus 4 over x plus 3. I have a feeling you're starting to feel more confident in this, so go ahead and give them a try. And come back, check your work,